Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today on Finance LIP's 20th session of the year, titled Financial Tips for Young People. Money affects every single person. It affects the choices that we make. Are you going to go to Cafe Javas this evening, or are you going to buy a Rolex from the Rolex stand? It affects our opportunities. Are we going to go for that seminar in the other country that we wanted to, or are we going to have to stay back home? It affects our stress levels. Do we have enough money to do what we wanted, right? This session is going to help us to deal with that. It helps us to manage our finances. It's not just about how much money we're making, or how much money is flowing into our bank accounts. It's how we manage that money. So in this session, we're going to be understanding the basic concepts of money, looking into sustainable practices, and what practices we can use in our everyday lives. My name is Muzaki Kirungi, and I'll be the moderator of this panel. Now, I'm currently a student at Makerere University Business School. I'm studying for my bachelor's in business administration, and I'm a youth empowerment advocate. Joining me, we have two amazing panelists, Emanzi, Micky, and David Kuteesa.
Yeah.
David Kuteesa is Chief Financial Officer of the mentorship class. He is also a youth advocate. Emanzi Micky is also a panelist. He is studying at Uganda Christian University. He is studying his civil engineering course.
Yes.
Yes, please. And also, he's on the swim team of Uganda Christian University.
Yes,
amazing. So before we get into our discussion, I'm going to lay
which I get the opportunities that I want. Yes, that's just a vague overview of how I understand finances.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. And David, what do you understand?
Well, for me, one of the things that makes me actually enjoy, I love talking about money is because in itself it's a topic that is quite diverse. There are ways in which it's like abstract to like the normal way we understand math, because there are different ways you can multiply, there are different ways you can lose it all so quickly. In other words, it's like a subject of its own. And that like literally intrigues me every single day to find out more what are the tricks, what does it, what can we do to gain more, what are the behaviors that we have that make us lose more in the long run. And all in all, it's really a language of itself. That's what I get when I think about money, or when someone talks about money. Yes.
And from your experience, you know there is understanding, but what do you think are the most important concepts that someone our age, maybe 15 to 35, should know about money?
About money, honestly, the first thing you should know is that 20% of your knowledge about money is basically, yes, your knowledge, yes? And then 80% is based on your behavior. So you may think that in terms of growing your wealth, in terms of growing your money, or trying to understand how money operates, is that 20% is what you know and how to spend it and how to grow it. And then 80% is your behavior, because your behavior determines how much money you have. Because you can say that I want to save money, I want to invest money, but when it comes to choosing what meal that you want to eat in the evening, you go for the 10K budget instead of like the humble 5,000 or 3,000 budget as a campus student, speaking from experience, honestly. So all in all, it depends on you, and you have to realize that it's not about how much you know about how money works, but execution and how your behavior aligns with what goal you want for your life in terms of your finances. Yes.
And Emanzi, what are the most important concepts that you think someone young should know about money?
Well, for me, I would have actually three that come to mind. The very first one is money is a tool, not the thing. If your focus is money, like if money is the only reason you're doing something, then you'll never have enough of it, because you'll reach a point where you have to do something you wouldn't imagine yourself doing simply for the reason of getting money. So if your reason for seeking money, maybe upping your finances, is deeper and basically if it's better than just simply having the paper, then that's a better perspective to have. So the second would be budgeting. We've heard the word so many times, it has become a cliche, but I think one thing you should know is a thing becomes cliche because of how important it is, or maybe how much it has been used. Things don't become cliche because they are not practical. So if they say budgeting, you hear it today, and we're going to talk more about it, but generally budgeting and investment, those would be the three.
I love the way you've laid the foundation. It's really going to show us that money is a concept that needs to be understood. It's not really complex, right? So let's get into our second topic, money and decision making. Now, we've understood certain concepts, we've understood that they're not really as complex as they seem.
True.
You just need to understand them. So my next question to you would be, how would understanding money actually affect the younger people's decisions?
Personally, I believe when you understand money, you get to step out of your own mind. Like you get it from a different perspective. Let's say, for example, you're understanding money in the context of impact. Money, it ceases to be just a paper and a way you can influence your environment. Let's say maybe you're looking at money not as the thing you're going to use to buy your next car, your next iPhone. You know, the 17 has just come out, so a few people are thinking about that. But if you're looking at it as a means to make impact, you won't be just seeking money to buy these things. You'll be wanting, how can I change someone's life with the money I'm going to make? So first of all, it opens up so many avenues for you to seek money. If you're looking at it in impact, you're going to prepare a plan to pitch to people who have more money than maybe they can know how to use. So you can divert some of that money to improve someone's life. And of course, as you are improving someone's life, it's going through you. So your life is obviously going to be improved as well.
David,
Yes.
how do you think the knowledge of these concepts affects or is important to a young person's life, to their decisions?
To their decisions, I think the first thing that comes to my mind is when I realized when I was 15 that you won't always have money. Like honestly, you won't always be in your father's home. You won't always have, let's say you get a job in university, you get a job and you have a side gig, but all the time you're just splurging that money anywhere you want. And when you understand that money won't always be there, and you realize that the different ways you lose and you can gain from your behaviors and what you invest in, and you learn it earlier on, trust me, it will put you at a level where your other peers won't be able to understand. Because one thing about investment or about savings or about growing your wealth or even developing generational wealth is that the biggest power that we have is our time in terms of our age. Because you realize that if we're able to set up investments when we're younger and they compound, if the investments offer an interest rate, let's say unit trust, and they compound over 20 years, over 30 years, the longer they stay in, the bigger the outcome. And the more consistent that you have, the more consistent that you invest into that said investment, the bigger the amount of money that comes out at the end. And it betters your in the long-term perspective, it helps you have a better life when you're like 40, 50, 60, when there are more things to be scared of losing. Let's say, because when we're young, there are less risks that we have. And because when you're young, you can make a faulty investment, you can invest somewhere and then you lose all the money. Let's say you lose like 500,000, but it won't hurt you as much as a person who is 30 years old, has a child on the way, already has like a 2-year-old, has a wife, has a house to take care of, and cannot simply take those risks that you have. So when you understand money at a young age and the principles that have it, you'll be able to take more risks because you have nothing to lose. As long as you have where to eat, where to sleep, and at least your education is taken care of, you're good to go. So when you understand these principles early, you'll be able to take opportunities that you wouldn't be able to take when you're older. Yes.
Lovely. So we've been looking at the concepts, the basic concepts surrounding money, so that you know when someone next brings up budgeting, you're not going to look like a deer caught in headlights. Now you know what budgeting is. You know at least something to do with budgeting and income and expenditure, and also why is it important. So now that we've understood what the terms around the money is and why it's important, let's look at some practical ways we can actually behave with that money. So Emanzi, what does responsible financial behavior look like to you?
First of all, I would term it as discipline. And I feel like budgeting, the things that we are mentioning now, they seem like such cliches, but it's really the same thing as looking at salt. If someone told you, oh, pass me that salt, you know what salt is, you know that things can be salty, but when they ask you what is salt, like, okay, if I put it in this, now let's go in the chemistry. If I put salt in this, what is it going to do? Like, now, knowing and understanding what money does is like getting budgeting, the salt, and now understanding that, okay, in budgeting, there's calcium carbonate, there are these bits of salt. So when you understand budgeting, that will help you now understand how am I going to apply it. For a university student that I am right now, budgeting may sound a bit grand because I may think, oh, I have to start making salary of 1 million budget, or maybe I have to first start working and making 5 million before I can budget.
Yeah.
But that's really not how it works. You can start with what you have, and basically that's my view. Hopefully I've answered the question.
Now, in your experience, could you just give us something that happened recently that you saw with your own eyes? Oh, okay, this is what a responsible person will do with their money.
Oh, okay, there are very many. These are mistakes that I have seen and maybe done that I wish I wouldn't have done, but I mean, you learn from your mistakes. Most recent one, in my personal view, was when I went to buy a certain watch. I love watches. I know for the people that know me, I love watches so much. And so when I got my upkeep, this wasn't as recent. This is for my mother to know. It's not recent, like in first year. But when I got that money, I looked at it. It was a bit comfortable for upkeep of a university student. And so I said, but now I can use this. I think university, I can survive on like 5K and do it. So I didn't even calculate how many days I would have. And so I got the certain amount, I'm embarrassed to say it, and I bought my watch. And I looked at it, I was very happy that day. But within the second week of university, I started to realize that things are not going to be so good for the next 1 month. And so from that I learned, that's when budgeting actually fell into my thoughts. I had just looked at it as cutting money here, and then you put it somewhere. But when I thought about it critically, I started to realize that the money I get is not being exactly replaced. Taking the example of a university student, they're going to give you upkeep, and it's not like it's going to compound immediately. So I realized that the money they had given me, whatever I used it for, it wasn't going to come back. So I had to choose things that were going to be beneficial to me, either in the long run or immediately, like consciousness. And so with the next, I survived that month, but with the next upkeep I got, I decided that that's not going to be my university life. I just decided I cannot live like that. And so I researched about budgeting, all the different formats, and landed on a rule called the 50-30-20 rule of budgeting. That's where you get half your income, but the income is any money that you receive it's not just salary, it can be upkeep.
Yeah.
Upkeep is income of itself.
Yeah.
That money that you get maybe when you visit an auntie and she says, oh, help transport my son, that's also income.
Yeah.
So when I learned that, I realized that I can get half of the money for essentials. Essentials at university are food, maybe transport, you need to go here and there, and how is it basically? So splitting it into the half of essentials. Then the 30% and the 20%, those are, 30% is for wants. Now the watch, the eating out, maybe I want to go to CJ's or Food Hub, and then those are basically things that I would want a shirt, a new shirt. And the 20% would go to investment and savings. So the practical example for me was when I realized 20% felt a bit small. And since, like David said, we are young and we can afford to take some risks than, more risks than a person who has no responsibilities and things to lose. So I decided to switch it up and put my investments as 30 and then the things I want as 20, because I can forego that CJ's lunch if I'm putting it in something that's going to, pay back in the long run. Yeah, so when I learned the budgeting skill, I started out, I went and looked for where I could put it, because again, investing sounded like such a high pedestal. Like,
True.
a university student, what am I investing in? I usually watch maybe mergers, they say Coca-Cola has bought. I can't buy Coca-Cola. So I was asking myself, what can I do with the little I have? So I made a bit of research and found the uni trusts, and so that's why I started putting my money in the very first semester of my university life. So that's why I started putting the 30%, the 20% I was using it. Most times I wouldn't even use it and save it for the next month. There's a month where I had I think 200K on just money I can use. And I feel like at first it felt scary to be in a place where I'm not sure of my next month, but the fact that I had this money, I knew I had budgeted for my needs, so I wasn't going to go hungry, and I have this to back me up. That helped me greatly.
True.
And before I knew it, I realized that budgeting is not really just for the people who are earning, it's essential for every single one of us. So in the practical sense, that's how I place budgeting.
Amazing. So what I'm hearing is that sometimes you're going to have to sacrifice for the future. Now, David, in your experience, what has responsible finance looked like to you? Maybe you could have seen it from someone else, or you could have also experienced it.
Responsible finance. I have something that I started that is good, and then something that I did that was bad. Actually, two that were bad, sorry. So the first one was, I read Richest Man in Babylon. It's a very good book in case you're interested to growing and learning more about how money operates and the psychology behind money. That's a good book to start with. And there was one principle that impacted me totally, is that for everything that you earn, put 10%. Gift from mom, gift from dad, 10% on the side. Do whatever you want with the rest of the money. Yes, you can follow that 50-30-20 rule. That I highly advise that one. But in case it's in small amounts of money, like let's say it's a 10K, 50-30-20 won't. I don't know if it will apply, but if you can, you do you. But just put 10%, put 1,000, and as long as you make it a principle, trust me, it will grow, because you realize that one day you receive 10K, that's 1,000. Next time you receive 20, that's 2,000. Put aside 50, that's 5,000. Then you come back to 5,000, you put 500. You're very dedicated with that principle. And over a space of 6 months, you realize that, hey, you guys, the amount of money I've put aside, just on 10% alone, that's when you're doing 10%. But if you put 20% like Emanzi, man, you have more than enough money to put aside. And that's what I did this year. And like Emanzi, I put it in my unit trust as well. And one thing that I regret doing is that my friend called me one time in vacation, and and he said that, you guys, let's try trading. Yeah, trading. Like, one thing I would say, if you're taking on an investment, please have knowledge on it before you just put your money there. I put a certain amount of money. I won't mention his name. I'm sure he's listening. I put a certain amount of money there, and let's just say I saw the tracking, they call it the needles, and I just saw it drop. And you know you're seeing all that money just go like this, and you're like, you guys, what have I done? And it was within 5 minutes, guys. 5 minutes. 5 minutes, I lost a lot of money that day. And then the lesson from that is please know what you're investing in. And then the second one was I gave out a certain amount of money to a friend. And one thing I learned from that encounter is that always understand who you're giving the money to and interrogate. Yeah, I know it can seem like you're coming from a bad place. Some relatives may say, why are you doing this to us? We're family, we're friends. But at the end of the day, being family and friends won't bring back the money back to you. So taking time to analyze what they're going to invest in, asking them, are you sure about this? Analyzing the risks that come with it, and saying that, you know what, if I'm to give you this money, what is your plan of paying me back? Can we set it in stone now so that when I demand, it's not a surprise to you because we set it in stone earlier on. If you want to go all the way to legal action and sign a contract, please do. It's your money. But at the end of the day, be responsible and know who you're giving your money to, so that at the end of the day, you don't lose out just because you're too kind. Yeah.
Lovely. So David and Emanzi have shown us how much your behavior with money actually matters. They've also gone a step further to show us how budgeting actually works and how you can make it more achievable and less restrictive on your own budget. Remember, some people are in high school, some people are in university, depending on allowance. Some people have graduated, but they're still living on a little bit of income. So we need budgets that are more relatable, that can actually work with what we have. Because I know that there are some people with mindsets that, it's only the rich who budget because they have this specific income. Now, I love the fact that, Emanzi, you talked about the 50, 30, 20. And David, you talked about getting 10% of everything that comes into your income. So we can actually get and learn from what David and Emanzi have talked about. So, how can young people actually create realistic budgets that work for their incomes? I know we've talked about the 50, 30, 20, the 10%, but is there more that you'd like to add or you think that can help the audience?
Okay, well, while David was talking, he actually reminded me about something that cannot go unsaid, and that is time.
Yes.
So it usually falls in the the backspace, especially when you get a significant amount of money for where you are. Let's say typing is easy when you have 10K. I mean, it's just 1K. Yeah. You just put it on the side if you even remember. But now take the example of 1 million. I have to get off 100. But now the way I was told to look at it was everything we have and everything we'll ever have comes from God. And so when you understand that, it's like your parent. Imagine your parent, of which God is our Father. Imagine your parent gives you 1 million. And they're telling you, every time I give you 1 million, just put 10% aside for me. The very hand that's giving you is just asking for a fraction of what they've given you. I don't think, when you look at it from that perspective, it changes the way you're going to look at it. Like, you don't even understand that, I got 1 million. You look at it as, I have 900,000. And that's it. And secondly, I would advise people to evaluate themselves. I mean, yes, I've talked about the 50, 30, 20 rule, but maybe there's someone out there and their upkeep is, say, 100,000. And now they're asking themselves, how am I going to survive on 50K for a whole month?
Yeah.
When I know that no other money is necessarily going to come in. So my advice would be to evaluate yourself. Look at your situation and understand that, okay, with 50K, maybe I can't eat from this restaurant every single day. And so now you start thinking, okay, let's say as a university student, what can I do? I know that if I ask my parent for gas, they're not going to say no. And yes, it might sound very funny, a very funny suggestion. cooking, but
Yeah.
when you think about it, I mean, I love cooking. That's one of my hobbies. I love them. I love cooking. But when I looked deeper into it, it is so much cheaper to cook food than to buy it. And you don't have to cook like luombo every single day. That's like you are not going to spend 25 hours cooking one meal. You can just wake up and make a meal plan. Okay, this week I'm going to eat rice, and the only thing I'm going to be changing is the sauce. So you have your rice, maybe you eat 1 cup a day, and you just make sure you have your 5 cups, of which, I mean, if you buy a whole kilogram or 5 kilograms of rice, you've already sorted that. Then you now look at the sauce. Okay, today I want to eat meat. Maybe you go and you ask the butcher. You know, you start getting into life, because if you don't learn how to do these things now, they're not going to magically be downloaded when you're now starting life. So you just budget your time maybe every day. I know I have to cook my food for 30 minutes, 1 hour. Because rice takes like 10 minutes. And then the sauce, depending on what you want, you take like 30, 40 minutes. So you get your 1 hour every day. You know that, okay, in my situation, I don't have the privilege to eat from CJ's like some of my counterparts every single day, or just the restaurant that's near university. So you now budget your time to fit into the budget for money. So you'll find that 50K has actually now worked for the whole month. That's what I mean by evaluate yourself, because you can't work on someone else's budget when you don't have the income they have. Yeah, that's what I would advise.
Thank you, Emanzi. So Emanzi has talked about more of university life, campuses, and we know that sometimes we might have the high schoolers who also want to know how to manage their budgets, because maybe they don't have as much responsibilities as the campuses. So, David, how would you tell a high schooler how to budget their money?
Okay, I think the first thing I'll start with is eat school food.
Yes.
Eat school food. Honestly, I don't know how much money I wasted in high school, because honestly, I realized that high school was the time when our parents used to give us free money from the bottom of their hearts. And now it's just they're slowly leeching us off. And if I was serious enough in S1, I would be a very rich man. And you realize that in high school, first of all, you're not paying for where you sleep, and there's free food. Okay, it depends on the school that you go to. The food may not be as good as you expect it, and some may have health issues. But at the end of the day, food is food. And one thing I've learned is that you should appreciate what you've been blessed with, because you cannot complain getting posho and beans every day when there are people who don't actually even get supper, and the only meal they have is breakfast. So honestly, the first thing would be eat food, eat school food as much as possible. And at the same time, try to budget off the money that your parents give. Personally, I never used to ask, I hated asking my parents for money since senior 2. I would always have a heavy heart when calling my dad and I've run out of money. And yes, you may be watching this, but yes, I always did, even though you won't believe me. And one thing that taught me is that if he gives me 50,000, and that's what he used to give me sometimes, 50K, from start day to VD, I have to make it work. And one thing I've learned about the human body is that it can adapt. Whether or what, it will adapt. And whatever you choose to set as priority, as long as your mind and body are in line with it, trust me, it will be the priority and you'll find yourself living off that 50K. So high school students, trust me, the opportunity for you to actually grow is much higher than a person who is outside high school. So just plan well, use the different principles that you've picked up from the moment you started, and you'll grow. And you'll enjoy university, trust me. You'll enjoy university.
Thank you, David. Now we are getting the feedback that some people have joined us. Thank you so much for joining us. Welcome. Now we have some questions from our participants. Now, you to explain unit trusts and
Unit
also
trusts.
emergency funds.
Emergency
Now, there's
funds.
saving, there's budgeting, but some people also want to know how we can invest that money and also prepare for a rainy day. So, Emanzi, what do you think about unit trusts and also emergency funds?
Okay, so a unit trust, I'm going to explain it in simple terms, like in a nutshell, not the technical terms. A unit trust is the most basic example I'd use is maybe, let's say, a circle. So let's say Divine and David and maybe 7 other friends of mine come together. We make a band of 10 and we say, we don't have the money to buy a Bajaj, but we want to start a border business. So we'll all get ourselves together and we say, on our own, we cannot buy that. But if we band up our money, let's say 10K every month, each one of us, we'll be able to make that, the money and to buy that border. So let's say the months have passed and now you have the money. Each one has been bringing their 10K in 3 months or in 4 months, you have your 4 million, you get the border. So the unit trust is more or less like, now let's call it the border. It will be the vessel that's bringing back money for you while you are putting in the same amount. Let's say it needs maintenance. So you keep putting in the 10K. But it's not that it's going to be lost, because the beauty with the unit trust is it's a very secure investment. It's done with insurance companies and mostly insurance companies. I was going to say banks, but no. So a unit trust is like people banding themselves together to give money to someone who has the knowledge and the capabilities to invest it in something bigger. Like one person cannot buy a company, but if 100 people came together and each gave 100,000, they can buy, let's say, Coca-Cola. And now Coca-Cola starts, making its business and it keeps returning. Some of the profit that they make goes back to you, who is putting money in them. And so a unit trust, the interest rates that a unit trust has are basically the profit that these companies are making from the money you give them, because on their own they also don't have the money to invest in these things, but they have the knowledge and the know-how and the know-who to invest this money. So a unit trust is basically that. It's a self-investment. It's like me giving you my money so that you can invest it and give me back a bit of what you've made. Yes, that's what I would explain a unit trust.
Yeah. Lovely. And David, what do you think of an emergency fund?
An emergency fund. You would basically describe it as if you stopped doing what makes you money today, how long will you survive? That's basically what an emergency fund is. And the earlier you start doing it, the better chances you have in case of a crisis in your life. In case the company that you're working for closes, how many months can you survive off your basic standard of living until you get another opportunity to earn more income? And one thing that helps us if we start early, especially us as the youth, is that if we have an emergency fund, one thing it helps is, okay, I wouldn't advise using your emergency fund for parties or any abrupt expenses, but it's not an emergency. But in case something happens in your life and you don't have anyone to turn to, honestly, you're in a deep spot. But as long as you have some money put aside at the back of your head, you'll be like, I'm okay. There's less stress, there's less panic, and somehow you learn how to be dependent on yourself. And yeah, it's a very good feeling to have. Trust me, if you have an emergency fund, you actually enjoy yourself, just amidst all the chaos that can be going on in your life. Yeah, that's how I would describe it. Yeah.
Lovely. Now, the common factor in both of these is consistency.
Yes.
Right? In order to have your emergency fund and your unit trust work for you, you have to keep putting something there. Because if you put in only 5K and then you come back in 5 years to check on your unit trust, how much money do you think it will have made for you?
Yeah.
Or your emergency fund. So both of these require consistency. But now, the audience wants to know, yes, it requires consistency, but I don't have a steady income flow. So how can I increase my income flow?
Okay, income flow. First, David has also made me realize that in as much as you are being consistent, in all of these things, there are some things you just have to unlearn as a person. You know, if you do the things you've always done, you will never, you know, you don't expect different results. If I wake up today and if I wake up at 8 today, I can't expect to see the sunrise because it left me. So, as you want, like when you want to get somewhere in life, let's say now you want to shift your financial status from here, from A to B, there are some things you're going to honestly have to change. Let's say, for example, you used to go out maybe every weekend. Maybe now you cut back. Let's start with 2 weekends if I'm going out. And what am I going out to do? Maybe if you go out, maybe just for the sake of being in people's spaces, maybe now start being creative. Ask your friends, how can we go out to the gardens and maybe talk about this and that? You know, being creative, trying to change the perspective in which you're using your money. So you realize that if you cut back on the weekends you're spending going out, that's already money you're making back. So let's say you're having your upkeep and then you're budgeting for going out every single day. You've cut back on 2 weeks. You've already started making that money now. Every month, the money you would have spent for these 2 weekends is now extra income, in quotes, that you have to put into other things. Let's say you wanted to start a unit trust, now you can put money there. And the beauty with unit trust is it's not restrictive, it's not fixed, depending on where you go, but most of them are not fixed. They're not going to tell you that, oh, you must bring 200,000 every single day of every single month, and maybe you must do it every single month. That's not how they work, because it works on the principle of compound interest. And you know, I read somewhere in a book that said compound interest is the seventh wonder of the world.
Yeah,
like how I can have 1K and then tomorrow it makes 100 shillings, and then that 100 shillings makes 1 shilling, and then like the cycle just continues. That's why when you're investing in unit trust, the arc is not constant. It grows, it tapers up. So at a certain point, that's why David was talking about the longer it is, the longer you save for, the more you get. So it will go on increasing. Like maybe the first 3 years will be so low and you're not seeing your returns. But remember, by the time you reach the 15th year, things are starting to change. So investing in a unit trust would also be another way of increasing your income. I mean, it's not direct, but you're supposed to look at these things with a long-term perspective. I mean, you're not just trying to make money to go out next week. Yeah? Because there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy. Because if you're wealthy, you are creating, you know, avenues for even your other generations to earn from you and to, you know, have comfortable lives. But if you're rich, I mean, you can wake up today, someone blesses you with 20 million, you buy a bike, and the 20 million is gone. You were rich, but now you're not. But if you're wealthy, maybe you have a business that keeps bringing back things for you. And I would end by saying, invest in yourself, because people can take your money, people can steal your money, you can lose your money in an investment, but no one can ever steal your brain. So invest in knowledge, invest in learning. Just being on this call today, it's also investing in yourself, because maybe there are some things you didn't know about money. Maybe you didn't know what a unit trust was. Now you have learned. No one's going to come into your brain and steal the knowledge you have on a unit trust. So instead of getting your money, putting it under your pillow, you now know that, okay, I know that I can put it here and it actually grows. I'm not even putting any input. I'm not going to tell them, oh, you should invest in this and that. I'm just giving them money, and I'm going to get more money back. So invest in yourself. That's a way of getting more money. You may learn something that can give you an opportunity to make more money. Let's say a public speaker learns how to iterate their words. Now you'll be paid to make talks, to give talks, and in that way you're creating more income streams for yourself. Invest in yourself.
Amazing. So to our audience who has decided to invest in themselves, a hand clap for you. And to anyone who has just joined us, welcome. We found us talking about increasing our income streams, and Emanzi has just talked about, you know, cutting back on expenses so that you can have enough money to put into a unit trust. So David, what do you think about increasing your income streams?
Increasing your income streams. one thing I could say, if you already have an active investment, let's say like a unit trust, please don't stop working. Please work.
Yes, true.
Because a unit trust only helps if you consistently add to it. And it's sort of a passive income, because you wouldn't want to use the revenue that you get from your unit trust to fund your daily expenses, because that defeats the point of the investment. So a unit trust is more long-term, but make sure that you find ways to invest in the short-term things. If you have a job, stay consistent at it, strategize to grow in your position. In case you've started a business, try your level best to grow it as much as possible. If you have friends, even you can choose your friends. If your friends alone, this is why you should mind the people that are around you. Because if you realize that, let's say me and my friends, honestly, started last year a circle, and we said every month is 20K. I haven't been consistent with that 20K, but I've tried. I've tried, honestly. Since last year, I've honestly tried. And one thing we did, we set out, you know what? Someone has land in Hoima. We go to Hoima, we put our pigs there. And over the past year, they have grown, we have bought more, and we're going to start selling soon. So honestly, trying to find ways to create more income streams also depends on the people around you. Are people around you switched on to actually say, you know what, I'm not going to be comfortable where I am. I need to find other things to solidify my comfort. Like to be able to say, you know what, even though I lose my job today, I'm okay. I'm honestly okay.
Don't lose it.
Yeah, don't lose it, but I'm honestly okay. Even though I lose this gig as I'm working, even as a university student, you know what, I'm okay. Even though my parents cut me off unexpectedly, I'm okay. Don't cut me off. Even though my parents cut me off, I'm okay. You know what? So being able to say that, being able to look out for the different opportunities, because there's this theory called the red car theory. They say that you never see red cars until someone tells you, you know what? Look, I want you to count the number of red cars that you see while you're driving by. And for each red car, I'll give you $10 or 10,000 Ugandan shillings. Trust me, you'll see enough red cars. But if you don't, a person will ask you at the end of the journey and you have no clue. So it's up to you to open your eyes. If you have the right mindset, trust me, they'll come. And if you educate yourself, as Emanzi said, you'll be able to find those streams, and trust me, you'll enjoy life. It will be hard, but you'll enjoy life. Yeah.
I love the fact that David has already ushered us into business recommendations. You know, he said that they collected money as a group and then they put it into a piggery.
Yeah.
And also the audience now wants some business recommendations. So while we are on that, you can now give us any other business recommendations you could have for a university student. Now, I'm not sure if high schoolers can make businesses in high school.
It depends on the school. But
yes, if you know your school is free with it, any recommendations for high schoolers? And also fresh graduates.
Fresh graduates. I think the first thing, the one thing I do, is I pivot off my skills. You know what? If I'm good at cricket, because I play cricket and I play for my school's club, cricket club. It's called the Old Budonians Cricket Club. And I get paid to do it. For every game I get paid. But it's me finding ways to use the skills that I've gained over my life to benefit myself. And whether or not you want to monetize them is up to you. But at the end of the day, all of us have been given skills and are able to monetize them in any way possible if we just open our mind to it. And let's say you're good at art, you know what? Let me just start drawing people's portraits. And it starts with intentionality, honestly, to be confident enough to say, you know what, guys, I have a business. I want to be painting portraits. Can you guys find me clients? And trust me, your friend group will find you clients. Your people around, if they support you, you will find people. So using your skills, the honest truth is, as a university student, you don't have many options. You're not certified yet, you don't have a degree, all these different things. But you have the skills that you've grown with. Because all of us have experiences from our childhood and have learned particular things. And if we're able to strategize and monetize them, or collect people together and say, you know what, guys, we have these different skills that we have, let's combine them to make this. You'll find ways of making money.
Lovely. And Emanzi, do you have any business recommendations you'd like to give to the audience?
Business recommendations. First, I would also start by continuing where David ended. I actually did, in my vacation, I did a lot of art. I love art and I do art. And I'm going to tell you, if you get into a field, however small or niche it may look, there's actually a market for all these things. Because in my vacation, I started art not really with the sense of selling things. I was just so intrigued with, first of all, that time. I had time to do things. Like I was like, oh, I want to do this and that. But then I started exploring art and I started realizing, okay, now if I sell portraits, yes, that's amazing, but I wanted something that would captivate people, that would make me stand out of the crowd. And so I discovered string art, and then I started exploring that. Oh, okay, like I know that people in Uganda haven't seen much of this. So if I start with this and make it, give it a Ugandan twist, maybe something's going to come out of it. And so when I did it, I just stepped out. I decided to do art for like the first 2 months, and then a friend of mine suggested I maybe try selling it somewhere. So I said, where on earth do they sell art?
Yeah.
They told me, oh, okay, you can try Tubayo. There's a monthly market day that's called Tubayo. And so that was my very first place for displaying my merchandise. So I took it there, and by the grace of God, people would come and they pass by. There's an art piece there of a sunset and everything. And they come and see my string art. They're like, oh, what's this thing? Yeah. How did you make it? Yeah. And I feel like the fact that I decided to pivot with my skills, but also decided to be intentional and be different, that got me more notice. So yes, I'll start with David's. Pivot with your skills. What do you know that other people may not know? Then second would be also, a circle. I also happen to be in a circle, and we started it earlier this year because we also wanted to start a business, but money, you can't now stress your parents all the time.
True.
You want this and that. And it might not come back. That's the fact about business. You can put your money in and nothing comes out. So we wanted to find a foolproof way of getting income. So we started our circle in, I think, February. And my circle mates may forgive me for this, but our bank statement is currently about 3 or so million. Because we started with a 40K a month, we decided we are 10. We're going to be consistent. We haven't been 100%, but we also haven't been 0.
True.
And that has helped us reach somewhere. So when we're done, we'll also pivot into a service. So before you start a business, I think it's important to understand what people will actually pay for. There are some things like basic needs. Some of the best businesses to start at basic needs, food. If you like pork is basically food. If you're going to start, people are going to buy because they want to eat. Maybe if you want to buy a judge, because for us that's our goal, we want to buy a boda and find someone to move with it. You'll be in town, there's traffic. Whether you like the judge guy or not, whether you like his face, you're going to board the judge, and that is a service. A basic need, transport, maybe food. So as you're pivoting and you're looking for these ideas, start with needs. Like, what are people going to pay for because they need it? So it would be good to start with something small, like maybe goats or pigs. So those are the ideas I'd have for people.
Thank you. Now, someone in the audience had asked, how can I save without a stable income? And I think our panelists had already discussed it by, if you don't have a stable income, you can start by cutting your expenses. And by cutting your expenses, now you have a little something to put into a unit trust or to just save or to put into a circle, right? So with that, because we're running out of time, our panelists, if the audience could take one thing from this discussion, what would you want it to be? Let's start with David.
Oh, okay. One thing they should take. We may have a lot of aspirations in our head that we want to be filthy rich, we want to be able to take care of like the next 10 generations of our family line and all these different things. But one thing my dad taught me ever since I turned like 18 and I had all these different ambitions in my head, is that the value that will keep you consistent and have a leveled head without stress is patience. Patience to understand that some things take time, and you may not be comfortable now. You may go through difficult times now where you may be living off like 10K, and man, things are tight, yeah? You're buying the 1K soup, and then just making your rice, and then buying 1K soup from your chapu guy. And honestly, being patient enough to understand that that's just a season, and growing out from that season to another, it's the best value you can ever have. So if you're to take anything, without patience, you cannot do any other thing. Because you cannot be consistent without patience. You cannot be principled without patience. So take your time, pole pole, as they say. Yeah.
Lovely. And Emanzi, what would you want the audience to know?
For me, the biggest takeaway, the thing I'm learning most is investing in knowledge. You know, just knowing something sets you apart from someone who has the capabilities but not the knowledge. If I know that, I'll take an example of maybe the art again. If I know that in this certain place there are people who love art and are willing to pay for that art, I may not even be that talented. But the fact that I know that there are people here who are going to buy my art, I'll take it there and I sell it. You who's better than me, like times 10, 20, you draw a thing and you admire it on your wall because you don't know who to sell it to. And beyond that, I mean, the reason I say take away learning and investing in knowledge is it's so diverse. I mean, we didn't even talk about generosity, which is, you guys, the world is sort of upside down. A giver will never lack. So with knowledge, if you're investing in knowledge, somehow you're going to find out that, okay, if I'm generous, I'm giving out, I'll never lack. And if one of my goals is to give back to the community, to do this and that, I will always have. Then, yeah, there's so many illustrations I can give for budgeting, for even unit trusts. There's so many people in Uganda who don't know about them. They have money, they're making maybe 10 or so million a day. So yeah, even a day, it's possible.
Yeah.
Yes, it's possible. But the fact that they don't have the knowledge and they're not taking the time to step out and look for that knowledge is already setting them behind. Now you, who maybe has an income of 100K a month, you know about a unit trust, you're putting your things aside diligently. In 20 years, this guy will still be earning his 10 million and his net worth is like maybe 20 million. For you, you're earning now a 1 million. But your net worth is like 40 times his salary because you're new. So investing in knowledge, just learning and learning. Because knowledge can never be taken from you.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I would tell people to go away with.
Lovely. So, in summary, patience, making research, consistency, investing in yourself. Thank you so much for joining us, our panelists, David and Emanzi.
Yeah.
Now, from the Finance LIP team, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. But before you leave, we have some offers to all of us that will be shared on our social media platforms and our website, www.financiallip.org. Thank you so much. Good evening. Good night.
Good. Ooh.